global economy. So economic globalization is a historical process, the result of human innovating and technological progress. So from the word historical, dati pa man may nangyayari ng economic globalization na which hindi aware yung mga tao noon kung ano ba yung importance nito sa buhay nila. So it refers to the increasing integration of economies around the world, particularly through the movement of goods, services, and capital across borders. So itong integration of economies, ito yung nagre-reduce ng cost for both consumers and producers, and siya yung nag-i-increase ng trade between dun sa countries na i-involve sa iisang agreement. So, the global economic system, there are various of changes and improvements that characterize economic globalization before and at present. Structures of transportation, communication, and capital are comparable then and now. So, example ng sa transportation is, noon kasi, ang mga significant inventions is yung railroads and steamships. Ngayon, nung na-innovate siya, meron na tayong ginagamit ng airplanes, which let us travel around the world with short period of time. So, mas convenient. So, when it comes to communication, yung internet have opened the world for everyone. So, meaning nakaka-access tayo to different websites, online platforms, and kasi noon, in the earlier 20th century, ang ginagamit lang nila is telegraph. So, in terms of capital naman, ito yung transaction ng isang migrant na nagpapadala siya ng pera dun sa country of origin niya. So, yung free trade and elimination of the barrier is nai-strengthen niya yung global economic processes in both periods. So, in economic terms, globalization is nothing but a process making the world economy an organic system by extending transnational economic processes and economic relations to more and more countries and by deepening the economic interdependencies among them. So, for example, in the Philippines, we cannot say na lahat ng kailangan natin ay nasa bansa natin. So, basically, we need to trade. So, kapag kasi nakikipag-trade tayo, magkakaroon tayo ng interconnectedness with other countries. So, doon din lumalabas yung interdependencies natin sa isa't isa. Through interdependencies, nagkakaroon tayo ng global economy. So, since yung world natin is very interdependent, hindi natin makikita sa isang lugar lahat ng kailangan natin. So, at the end, we basically need to trade to other countries and magkakaroon tayo ng international relationship. And also, dito sa trading, it is a way para mapaunlad ang ating economy. So when we say trade surplus, there is a higher demand for a country's goods sa global market, which pinupush niya yung price ng goods na yun into higher and leads to direct strengthening of domestic currency. So basically, yung trade surplus can create employment and economic growth, but also it may lead to higher prices and interest rates within an economy. So when we say trade deficits, ito naman yung opposite ng trade surplus. Kasi yung trade surplus, nire-represent niya yung net inflow of domestic currency. While yung trade deficits naman, siya naman yung nagre-represent ng net outflow ng domestic currency sa foreign markets. So basically, sa trade deficits, lower demand for currency make it less valuable in the international market. In Economic Chains and Network, Gary Gariffi has outlined several of the most important economic chains and networks involved in global trade. So first, meron tayong supply chains. So itong supply chains, this is how the company turns raw materials into finished goods and services for the customers. So for international production networks, so this phenomenon enabled countries to undertake more in-depth specialization in a niche part of the production chains with important benefit for their own economic activities and growth. So in global commodity chain, ito yung naglilink dun sa corporations and sa mga workers dahil dun sa mga nag-gather na commodities na i-transform into goods and services and i-distribute siya sa mga consumers around the world. So in global value chain, ito yung full range of activities including yung design, marketing, production, distribution na dinadivide into multiple firms and workers to bring a product to its conception and to its end use and beyond.
Global value chain, the China and the US. To give specificity to the idea of global value chain, look at the several specific examples of such chain, all of which involve trade between China and the US. Although many other countries in the world are involved in this or similar chain, so sinasabi po dito upang mabigyan ng idea ang global value chain na matukoy or matiyak kung nagkapareho ba talaga ang China and US. So, ito po ay titingnan natin base sa mga example na nakapaloob dito. Scrap metal. It is interesting in this regard because its origins go back to the other chains involved in the use of raw materials and the production of finished products. It is also includes consumption of those products as well as their ultimate disposal as scrap or junk. So, sinasabi po dito na ang scrap metal ay involved sa mga raw materials and paggawa ng finished products. So, ibig sabihin, ang scrap metals ay lumalaganap sa US and China na kung saan nagmumula sa raw materials na makagawa sila ng panibagong finished products. And next is waste paper. Take mountains of waste paper from the US, ship into China, recycle it into corrugated boxes, are used to ship goods to various places around the world, including the US, and once the boxes arrive at their destination and been unpacked, they are turned into scrap and the process begins all over again. So, sinasabi po dito na ang waste paper na nagmula sa US na pinadala sa China upang i-recycle. So, kung titingnan natin sa panahon natin ngayon, sobrang yaman ng China. Pagdating pa lang dito sa Pilipinas, yung mga products na galing sa China na pinapadala sa Pilipinas, kumbaga yung mga product na binibili natin na galing ng China is hindi natin nagagamit ng matagalan. So, ibig sabihin, hindi siya napapakinabangan ng matagal din. So, pagdating sa waste paper, nawawala ang global value chains sa pagitan ng US and China. T-shirts. The global value chain here involves, among other things, cotton grown in and shipped from the US, t-shirts manufactured in China. So, ang t-shirts din ay isa mga halimbawa ng global value chain maliban sa scrap metal and waste paper. So, kung ang waste paper ay mula sa US na nirecycle ng China, ang t-shirt naman ay mula sa US pero gawa siya ng China. And the last is iPhone. The global value chain from the Apple iPhone is fascinating. So, hindi naman nakapagtataka na sobrang dami talaga ang gumagamit ng iPhone. Kasi sobrang ganda talaga ng quality ng isang iPhone. So, the story started with the mystery that while 3.7 million iPhones were sold in 2007, while 2.3 million were registered on the wireless networks that are Apple's exclusive partners in the US and Europe. Apple has been negotiating with China Mobile with 350 million subscribers. So, ang value ng iPhone na sinasabi ay nagkaroon sila ng 3.7 million na iPhone na naibenta noong 2007. 2.3 million naman ang naka-registered. So, sa madaling salita, ang iPhone ay sobrang laki ng ugnayan sa pagitan ng US and China. Increasing competition for commodities. The increasing demand for these commodities and many others is no longer fueled mainly by the needs of the countries we traditionally think of as highly developed, but now by massive development in other parts of the world, especially India and China. The result of all of this was a massive increase in all prices of all sorts of commodities. The prices of many commodities reached high record in 2008. So, sinasabi po dito na lumalakas or tumataas po ang kalakalan sa mga bansa. Dahil na rin po ito sa pagtaas ng mga populasyon ay nagresulta po ito ng pagtaas na rin ng mga bili.
Outsourcing is a strategy in which company obtains a service from one or more companies for a corresponding fee. Its main purpose is to facilitate and simplify the work of a company in order to focus more on other tasks that they believe are more important and will be more rewarding. So, ang outsourcing ay isang paraan na kung saan ang isang kumpanya ay nakikipag-negotiate or nakikipag-agreement sa ibang company para sila yung mag-handle ng responsibility, operations, plans, at yung mga existing activity na kailangan sa isang company. So, in other words, company seeks external support to perform some business activity to focus on core goals. So, yun nga, nangihingi sila ng support sa ibang company para yung isang company na yun is nakafocus lang siya dun sa main goal niya para sa future ng kanilang company, and yung other company is sila naman yung mag-handle ng mga responsibilities and existing activity na kailangan. At different types of outsourcing. First is offshoring. So this is a type of outsourcing where the service of a company is taken due to low fee charges. So, ito ay isang uri ng outsourcing na kung saan ang serbisyo ng isang company ay kinukuha dahil sa mababang singil na halaga. So, nearshoring, this in turn refers to obtaining service from a neighboring country. Ito naman ay tumutukoy sa pagkuha ng serbisyo na nagmumula sa kalapit bansa. Pangunahing layunin nito ay mas madaling transaksyon sa pamamagitan ng pag-iwas sa suliraning kaakibat ng offshoring. At naiiwasan din nito ang barrier hatid ng pagkakaiba ng kultura at wika. So next is onshoring. It is the procurement of service from company which is also from within the country but has lower operating cost. So ito naman ay tinatawag ding domestic outsourcing. Ito ay ang pagkuha ng serbisyo mula sa kumpanya na mula din sa loob ng bansa, ngunit may mas mababang gastusin sa operation. Consumption. The act or process of consuming consumption of food and consumption of resources. So, meaning nito, ito yung kilos o paraan na kung saan pinapakita dito na kung paano nagkukonsume ng isang produkto o ng isang serbisyo, alinman sa mga mamimili o sa mga gumagawa ng iba't ibang produkto dito sa bansa. Consumer goods and services. So, consumer goods, any tangible commodity produced and subsequently purchased to satisfy the current wants and perceived needs of the buyer. So, ang consumer goods ay ito yung mga produktong binibili ng tao para sila is masatisfy, katulad ng wants and needs. So, yung consumer goods, merong tatlong categories. So, first is the durable goods. So, goods not for immediate consumption and able to kept for a period of time. So, ang example ng durable goods is yung mga appliances, furnitures, equipments, jewelries, vehicle parts, and etc. So next is the non-durable goods, or soft goods are the opposite of durable goods and are called consumables. So yung non-durable goods naman, ito yung mga may iksing lifespan. So katulad na lang ng mga cosmetics, cleaning products, may mga groceries, etc. etc. So, next is the services. Services naman is a transaction in which no physical goods. So, ang example nito is yung transportation, banking, education, and yung medical treatment. And yung mga nagpapa-home service din, yun yung isa din sa mga example ng services.